back to another exciting edition of Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gyllenhaal Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tabby Law Office, and Byride Auto. Ryan Higginbotham, Jason Simpson live here in studio. Josh joining us live via satellite. Oh, hey. Now I can hear myself. I thought I was just talking into the ether. I was probably getting picked up by a microphone 3 rooms away, but that's all right. Anyway, Josh joining us live via satellite.
Guys, big news. Tom Fleming is calling. Let me get him in here.
Yes, the Godfather returns. As we have this dead air, this is wonderful.
Boys, we've got a special guest today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Wait, I can't even do that justice, but I mean that's the only fitting type of introduction we could give our special guest who's calling in. Although Josh, you did kind of let the cat out of the bag when
I did.
You said
I was too excited.
But the Godfather himself has made his triumphant return, calling in. So we have 2 people live via satellite. Not only is Josh joining us, but now live, back and better than ever, we have the one, the only, Thomas Tiberius Fleming III, Esquire. Tom, so good to have you back in the fold.
Thanks, guys.
So Tom, I mean, it's been a day or two since we've gotten to talk sports with you. I just don't know if anything's happened, so thanks for calling, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good, guys.
Well, I mean, in honor of Tom calling in, we obviously have Little Brother back and better than ever, doing what Little Brother does, but we will save the Purdue talk until later, because we know Tom's affinity for the WNBA and Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. So, Tom, we obviously know there are a lot of different topics we could bring up when it comes to that. So, we're going to give you the floor. Where do you want to start with, whether it's the WNBA in general, whether it's Caitlin Clark, the Fever? You take us whatever direction you would like.
Well, I mean, for people that, may not pay as much attention to the WNBA as I do, and I'm starting to wonder why I do. There's been a lot of controversy over the last couple of weeks. Sophie Cunningham was asked, my girl Sophie Cunningham was asked about the whether or not whether trans females should be allowed to play in the WNBA. And, Sophie, I think what the majority of people would say is that, why in the world would you want an adult, biologically male, to play in a women's league? And I mean, Sophie has taken so much crap over that statement over the last few weeks. And now you have last Sunday when the Fever played Minnesota, and the coach of Minnesota had a shirt on that said trans kids matter. Well, of course they do, but should a biological male be allowed to play in a women's league? And now, the WNBA, they put themselves in a corner, because now you have 2 former NBA players who have said, hey, I say that I'm a woman, so I want to be in the draft next year for the WNBA. And, making a joke out of the situation. And now the WNBA has backed themselves into a corner. What if they tell these people no? we're not going to let you in the draft. Can you imagine the lawsuits that would go on as a result of that if they told somebody, no, you can't be in our league after they've made such a big fuss about it? I think they have backed themselves into a corner, and for all the good that Caitlin Clark has done over the past 3 seasons in the WNBA, they just cannot accept things going well. They have to have controversy. And, it's like the thing with Caitlin Clark being the 11th best guard in the WNBA. Give me a break. But, yeah, guys, I mean, it just, to me, they put themselves into a situation where, I could see people suing to try and get in the league. And then what do? So, anyway, that's it. I've been rambling, guys. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Before we continue, though, on this, we need to give our public service announcement, because obviously anytime you talk about things like this, it can be a sensitive subject. And we know some of you out there in Radioland love to send anonymous emails when you're upset about something that we've said. This is not a judgment by any of us. We're giving our observations and our opinions. Okay, that these are opinions. We're not stating these as fact. You're allowed to disagree with somebody's opinion. If you know the four of us, we're not going to judge anybody with any of our comments. It's not anything like that. We're not singling out one specific person or anything. This is a conversation about a professional sports league that has a problem right now. Actually, they've got a lot of problems if you're paying attention. So that's just the PSA before we begin, just so if anybody gets a little excited, a little antsy, you get your panties in a wad. Calm down, Margaret. It's okay. No, Margaret Davis, I'm not talking to you specifically because I know Margaret's listening. So I'm just setting the table out there, because I know, like, when we start to talk about things like this, we will share our opinions and somebody could get upset about it. That's not what this is about. This is just to discuss an issue that is going on in a professional sports league right now. And last time I checked, we are a sports show. So, Josh, you had something you wanted to say, so you go right ahead.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback off of that, Jason, we try to talk about the biggest topics in national sports and then obviously local stuff. And I think we would be remiss not to talk about this, because right now it's the biggest story in sports, and it's bleeding into the women's tennis. They're getting questions about that, and we've gotten to the place where, unfortunately, like you prefaced by saying, opinions aren't facts necessarily. You can use facts to craft your opinion, but that doesn't mean that my opinion is right compared to somebody else's opinion. So this is a topic that needs to be covered, because it's covered everywhere. And the only thing that really bothers me about this is so many people, so many women and men, but really women have fought for equal rights and Title IX, and instead of having in high school, let's say, boys basketball, instead of having boys basketball always on Fridays and Saturday nights, now the girls get to play on Fridays and Saturday nights, and it's been a struggle and a battle for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And now the fact that because of what has come out the last couple of days with 2 former NBA players basically saying we're jumping into the WNBA draft, and the WNBA now has 3 options, and they painted themselves in this corner. Option 1 is deny that these two men are women, which would then the WNBA would have to come out and say they know what a woman is. number two, they could admit the men into the league, and then what does that do for the WNBA? And number three, they can announce that only women are eligible. So, they're not in a good situation. And these two guys are doing this, and they have scrubbed the league bylaws. And they know, to Tom's point, if the WNBA says, no, you can't play, then what are the lawsuits on that? So,
hey, Josh, let me throw this. There's one word that we need to add into that I think makes the entire argument is biological.
Thank you.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And you had number one tennis player Aryna Sabalenka coming out and saying, of course, biological males would beat us in a tennis match. I mean, they don't want that. And I think if you polled 99% of the WNBA anonymously, they wouldn't want that either. I think the problem is you have a lot of retired female athletes that are coming out because it's easier to stand on that platform when you're retired. Megan Rapinoe is the biggest one that comes out for that and for biological men playing against women. And it's easier for her to do that because she's retired. And this is not a knock. The women's soccer team, national soccer team, captured a country for multiple World Cups. They're the best women's soccer team in the world. And this is just what happened a few years ago. That team that won the Women's World Cup lost 7-0 to the 15U boys team, men's boys or USA boys team, 7-0. And that's not a knock on any of the women. I don't think we're taking anything away from Caitlin Clark or Sabrina Ionescu or Paige Beckers or Asia Wilson. We're not taking anything away from them. We're not downplaying their skill. There's no comparison between a biological male and Caitlin Clark. And especially
Josh,
if you
you
get
mentioned
to
it earlier, the wildest thing is the people who are actually coming out. I don't want to say necessarily in support of Sophie Cunningham, but what she was standing on are current and former women's tennis players. Because think of the makeup of that tennis tour. Like, you would think on the surface they would be the ones who would be the exact opposite. They would be screaming out against Sophie Cunningham. But like you said, the number one player in the world right now, one of the greatest of all time, Martina Navratilova, comes out and saying, Sophie Cunningham's 100% right. So it's wild to see where the support is coming from, but then also on the flip side, where some of the naysayers are coming from, exactly from places that you wouldn't ever expect it to come from. And what does it all go back to? It's all about politics. Everybody is so worried about what side you fall on, instead of why can't we just be? Just be. But everything nowadays has become so political. You have to be on one side or the other. You're not allowed to just kind of walk that middle ground. And sometimes you veer left, sometimes you veer right. What happened to the days when that was an acceptable way to be? Because now, and you even, you read through the three, the WNBA is in a Pandora's box now. That no matter what choice they make, they have painted themselves into a corner. And it's absolutely hilarious. But now, because I think we talked about this through text last night in our text chain. It's wild to me, and again, this goes back to politics. And trust me, I follow politics 0.1%, and the only reason I ever do is because it'll pop up on my TikTok feed. And so I'll watch some of these videos. But it is absolutely laughable to me. These people who have, I'm assuming, made multi-millions of dollars, they have doctorates, they're the best in their field, they have to go testify in front of Congress. But depending which side they fall on, whether they're on the right or whether they're on the left, it's not what they think, but that's what determines their answer. And it goes back to this. I have had things come up, I've watched these videos where there will be senators or representatives say, "Tell me what a woman is." And they go into this word salad and will never just say what it is, because then if they do, they lose the point that they're trying to fight for. And that's exactly where the WNBA finds themselves now. And I don't know how they find a way out of this.
Yeah, they're not in a good situation. And I would say this as a asking the question, and if Caitlin Clark or Asia Wilson were able to physically play in the NBA, don't you think they would?
1,000,000,000%.
Look how much. I mean, Tom, how much does Caitlin Clark make this year? Salary?
About $500,000.
$500,000. You know who makes $500,000? A guy named Micah Potter for the Indiana Pacers makes $2.2 million this year. And guess what? He got waived. He's not even on the roster, and he's making $2.2 million. And I'm not saying he's the worst player in the NBA, but he's the 15th best player.
No, the worst player in the NBA plays for the Lakers, Josh.
Well, yeah, Bronny James.
But think about that. Like Bronny
saying,
James, we love to make fun of him. Take 5 dudes with the exact same skill set and size as Bronny James. How badly do they beat a WNBA team?
Yeah, and that's, again, we're not taking anything away from Caitlin Clark or any of them. But it's just physically, like Bronny James at 6'4", 215, with the power that he has, is insane.
It would be embarrassing.
I mean, Enes Kanter, who was the first one to come out and say that he's entering the WNBA draft, is 6'10", 250.
Yeah.
The biggest player in the WNBA is Brittany Griner, and she's 6'7", 195. I mean, and so Enes Kanter would average 65 points and 32 rebounds a game.
He might do that in the first half.
I'm just, like, again, if Caitlin Clark was physically able to play in the NBA, she would, because she would make $15 million, $20 million. And the sad thing is, I think there is good basketball in the WNBA. Yes, you can clip this and record it and play it over again, because you'll never hear me admit that. But I just did. There's good basketball in the WNBA in its lane. Just like there's good basketball in boys high school basketball and girls at high school basketball in their specific lane. As good as your team was, going undefeated all the way to the state championship game, having the best season in Greensburg girls history, I'm sorry, they're not matching up with Bryant McIntosh and Sean Sellers and those guys. They're just not.
No.
And again, no knock on anybody. You had the greatest team in Greensburg history, one of the best teams in 3A state history. And they're probably not even matching up against Jack and Kai Dyer and those guys. So,
well, again, it's where I get all my news. I saw this just came across on TikTok. This guy put together a video. The full video is on YouTube, but it showed up on TikTok. And he did a challenge. He found 5 Division I signees, girls, 5 Division I basketball players, and 5 boys who were all on their JV team at their high schools. JV. And they did 3 things. They did a shooting contest and another contest, like individual things, and then they played 5-on-5. Well, in the individual contest, the girls won pretty easily. And why is that? Because it's individual. You're not matching up against anybody else. So in those ways, girls can compete and be better than boys. When I guess you could look at that and say that's when the level, like everything is level. The playing surface is level. Everybody's playing the same game, right? The girls got to use a girl's ball. The guys got to use a guy's ball. The goal's still 10 foot high. Nobody's guarding you, things like that. Girls won easily. Then they played 5-on-5, and it was first team to 30 wins. No point, like you didn't have to win by a certain number of points. First team to 30 won. the girls won 30-29. Almost lost to JV boys. So you have to assume these girls are 18 or 19 years old because they're going to a Division I school. And these JV boys, you're assuming, are probably 14 or 15 years old. So you've got girls mature earlier, on average, than boys. And you already have that age gap. So, I mean, granted, that is one example. But even that right there, Division I level basketball players almost lose to JV boys. No knock to JV boys. I coached it for a lot of years, and I loved it. But you're on JV for a reason. It means you're not good enough to play on the varsity team, you know? So just examples like that, too, play into this so much. And this is an angle I haven't really thought of yet. But how are the owners and everybody else around the WNBA feeling knowing that they have Kathy Engelbert to see them through this mess? How's that going to work out for them, Tom?
The true worst commissioner in all of professional sports, hands down, the worst. One of the things that I'm surprised that WNBA players and coaches and all of that have not mentioned is, for some reason, the year sticks in my mind. In 1977, there was a trans female, Renee Richards, was born male, went through transition, all that kind of stuff, and didn't win any tournaments because he wasn't that good when he was playing on the men's tour. So he never won anything. So I'm kind of surprised that nobody has said, well, here's an example of where we had a biological male playing on the women's tour and he couldn't win any tournaments. So I'm shocked that nobody's brought that up before with the WNBA.
And tennis, Tom?
You what?
What sport was that in?
Tennis.
Oh, okay. And you know, the crazy thing is, in all of this, like, Bruce Jenner was at one time considered the greatest athlete in the world. Why? Because of the events that he won in the Olympics, right? Doesn't that, you get the title of world's best athlete, right?
Yeah, decathlon, yeah.
And probably now the most high-profile, most well-known transgender woman, right? Now Caitlyn has even come out and said, by no means should a biological male be allowed to participate with biological females. There is no metric once you get to, like, person against person, should they be allowed to? And you say, okay, well, then biological males should be allowed to play on the LPGA tour. Like, there's no physicality there. No, because you still get those built-in advantages. In the LPGA, are they playing from the male PGA tees, Josh? Do you know?
No, they are not.
So you're going to have that built-in advantage where you're going to start closer. The holes aren't going to be as long, but yet you can still hit it as far as a male. Like, things like that. So I mean, maybe, but you can't start, you know, picking and choosing, because then they'd say, well, why can't we do it here? But, you know, maybe professional cornhole could allow it to happen, because the playing field is level there, right? It doesn't matter who or what you are. I mean, do you have an advantage being male or female in cornhole? Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a professional cornhole player, but
okay, so I guess it depends on how many drinks.
I would say no.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is just a mess of colossal proportions, and like, it's to the point now it's almost comically funny. The fact that, you know, first it made waves, like, oh my gosh, Ennis Freedom Cantor just said he's entering the WNBA draft. But then, is it Royce White? I think that was his name. Yep. Royce something. So now there's a second NBA player that has come out and said, well, yeah, I'm going to enter the draft. And the thing is, at least the way everything I'm reading so far is, they're not doing this to make a mockery of it and to make fun of it. That's not why they're doing this. They're doing it to prove a point and to hold the WNBA's feet to the fire to say, look, folks, what are we doing? What are we doing? You know, and Tom, you even mentioned it at the beginning. when you talked about the shirt that the Minnesota coach was wearing. At what point did Sophie Cunningham say that people didn't matter, that their feelings didn't matter? She never did. But all of a sudden we jump to these conclusions and we say, well, just because this person holds this opinion, that means all of these other things. No! Sophie Cunningham simply said, men should not be allowed to play with women. Period. That's all she said. That's it. But then we jump to all of these conclusions and start labeling people, and then it turns into this. And so now that's exactly why Enes Kanter and I about said Royce Clayton, former shortstop of the San Francisco Giants. Boy, that's a throwback. But Enes Kanter and Royce White are calling out the hypocrisy is really what they're doing. And they are making they have put the WNBA in an incredibly uncomfortable position, because now if you don't let them in, you are going to have to say why. And why is that going to be? Because you are a male or you are not a female. It's got to be one of those two things, which means now what?
Yeah.
Now you've lost any argument in the future if there is someone who is trans that wants to come in. Sorry, you're like, you have to define what a woman is. Well, now you don't meet that definition. So, I mean, unless, there are some people out there who are pretty good with words. If they can find a way to word it, I don't know how you do that. I'm not a wordsmith, but, maybe there is some legal mumbo jumbo that can be weaved in there, and they can find a way to make this end well for the WNBA. But I don't see an end that is going to be very pretty for that league.
Well, what happens if this goes on and we get to next year's draft, both of those guys remain in the draft, and they don't get picked? Now, can you imagine the collusion lawsuits that would come from that?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this going to be like... Yeah. Oh, daggone, I just lost his name. Quarterback for the 49ers.
Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah, Kaepernick. Yeah. Like, it would get even bigger than Kaepernick is what it would be. Because he when he ends up getting cut by the Niners and then nobody else signs him, he, of course, sued the NFL and things like that and said there was collusion. But this would be even bigger than that. Like, this would be an absolute firestorm.
Do you think there's one WNBA owner out there that signs off on it and says, absolutely, I want to win, draft them, let's go?
How many WNBA franchises are owned by an NBA team or by, like, the NBA owner? There's a couple, aren't there?
Most of them are owned by the NBA. Yeah.
No, I mean by the owner of the NBA franchise that it's in. Like the Fever with the Pacers, but the Simons don't own the Fever, do they? Or do they? I don't know.
Yes, they do.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, I can see if the owner of the Phoenix Suns owns the Phoenix Mercury, I can see the Mercury doing it. That's the first one that jumps off top of my head.
Here are the 6 NBA affiliated owners with WNBA franchises. The Golden State Valkyries, they own the Warriors, the Fever, Minnesota Lynx, New York Liberty, Phoenix Mercury, Toronto Tempo, great name, and the Washington Mystics.
I can see possibly Phoenix, and the other one that might be an outside shot would be Minnesota. Those would be the only two. The Fever hired Stephanie White, and look, like, she's been about as stiff as a wet wash rag. Like, she has the spine of a jellyfish. It's unbelievable. So that, like, the Fever won't do it. But I could see Phoenix and possibly Minnesota would be the only two I could see.
Yeah, and don't you think that a lot of people would tune in to the WNBA if those two biological
ratings
males
would be the
play?
highest they've ever been.
Absolutely. Now, wait a minute. I might revise my answer. Didn't Enes Kanter play for the Knicks? I believe he was a New York Knick. So maybe the Liberty would get in there, like show a little loyalty to our former player here. Huh? I might revise my answer.
Here's what I would do. I would, John Calipari recruited both Enos Kanter and Royce White. I would, if I'm the Fever, I'm hiring John Calipari, and then I'm drafting both of those guys, paying them league minimum or the rookie scale, having those two biological males along with Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and I would win every single game in the WNBA, and it wouldn't be close. And you would have the most watched team, even though you would continue to have the most watched team, and you would dominate. And I was kind of looking at a couple things. Like, again, this is no knock on the skill set of Nelly Korda or anybody else on the LPGA. The longest non-Colorado, because you're playing at altitude, so the ball travels. The longest non-Colorado course in the history of the LPGA was 6,800 yards. The shortest PGA course that they've ever played is 6,800 yards.
The shortest ever.
The shortest ever and the longest ever. Like the women on the women's tennis tour, they play with shorter nets than the men do. So if you go to a tennis tournament and there's a men's match and then a women's match or vice versa, in between matches they come out and they actually change the nets. And that's just on I don't know about in college, I don't know about in high school. I just know that's how it is on the prospective men's and women's tours. So again, I would watch Aryna Sabalenka over any non-male American player. So I'm following her. I like watching her play. I enjoy watching Serena Williams play and Coco Gauff and Madison Keys. Like, I enjoy watching them play. They're fantastic. But they're not beating Novak Djokovic. They're not beating, like, when they did this, and they did the Battle of the Sexes, Bobby Riggs versus
Billie Jean King.
Billie Jean King. And I think Bobby Riggs won, correct?
No, he did not. She beat him.
He did not. She beat him. So then
he was also about 40 years older than her.
Ah, okay. And she was at the top of her game, and whatever it is, she still beat him. Fast forward to this year, Aryna Sabalenka played Nick Kyrgios, an Australian tennis player who had not played because of injuries in about a year and a half. And Nick Kyrgios beat her in straight sets. Here's the thing. They played on a smaller court. Nick Kyrgios only got one serve, so he couldn't fault. That was a point for her. And they played on the same side. Aryna Sabalenka had a larger side to hit it on. Nick Kyrgios had a smaller side to hit it on. And he only got one serve to her, too. And he still beat her in straight set. So even changing the rules because of the physicality, and the sad thing in all of this, fellas, is like there's a great place for the WNBA. There's a great place for all women's sports. Like nobody would. There's more TV viewership for women's gymnastics and women's swimming in the Olympics than there is for anything on the men's side. Katie Ledecky, must-watch TV. Simone Biles, must-watch TV. Other than like a Michael Phelps, can you say that about any other men Olympian? Probably not. Yeah, we could probably pick out one or two. But just off the top of our head, Simone Biles, Katie Ledecky are two of the biggest stars in Olympic history. Not men's, not women, Olympic history. So there's a place for that. And the fact that that guys like Enos Kanter and Royce White are coming out and doing this just to put the WNBA on notice is sad, and it really takes away from the great players that are in the WNBA.
And guys, when you talk about golf, there were a couple times where Annika Sorenstam, who, in my opinion, is the greatest women's golfer ever, played in some PGA Tour events, played from the men's tees, missed the cut both times.
And I don't know that she was particularly close, was she?
No,
she was not, and but and she played from. I think I'm looking up Colonial. to see how long it is. I mean, it's probably in the 7,200 yards. I mean, it's a longer course, especially from LPGA standards. It would be the longest. We just established that. So, and to your point, Tom, she's probably the greatest women's golfer of all time. And again, we're not knocking her. We said she's the greatest of all time in her sport. And that's just the sad thing. Like, if Megan Rapinoe had to play against Christian Pulisic, then she wouldn't be for it. But she's retired, and she's a nobody now. And just because Sophie Cunningham came out and said that doesn't mean that she's a MAGA Republican. I mean, she just doesn't want to play against biological men, and I can't blame her. So,
well, I mean, that again, that this is going to stretch on for a while now, and never fear, boys and girls, Kathy Engelbert's got the WNBA. They are in good hands.
So real quick, what do you guys ultimately think happens? Just your opinion. How do you see this playing out? Tom?
Man, I would say that those guys sue in order to be in the draft, because the WNBA is going to say, whoa, wait a second. But the guys don't get drafted, and then there are lawsuits for collusion. And I don't think that the WNBA, even right now, has in their eligibility male or female. So, I mean, a biological male who says, "Yes, I'm a man,"
it's
but I
very
want to play
generic
in the WNBA,
language.
should be able to do it.
It says something about, like, you must be a woman, or only a woman, or something like that. But it doesn't say anything about biological. It doesn't say anything like that. And so that's why, last night in our text chain, I sent that screenshot of Clay Travis. He said that they've painted themselves in a corner now because of this and because of that language, because now they're going to have to define what a woman is if they want to find a way out of this. Or at the end of the day, you have to let those two guys be a part of your draft. I don't see a way around it as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Another question, do you guys ultimately think in the long run, now I'm thinking 5-10 years down the road, that this is the absolute best possible thing that can happen for women's sports? Because I do.
I think it's going to be an incredibly good thing. Like, you have to be impressed by what Riley Gaines has done. And if you don't know Riley, you don't have to love the things that Riley Gaines says now, because she's gotten incredibly political. So that's for you to decide. But if you go back and listen to her original story, like, you want to talk about somebody that got, just absolutely let down by the system and by the NCAA and everybody involved. Check out Riley Gaines' story from when she was a swimmer was she at Tennessee?
Kentucky.
She was at Kentucky.
Yeah.
Check out her story and what happened to her there. But, it's been impressive, the fight that she's put on for these rights and things like that, but it hasn't really gotten anywhere. And I don't know if that's because, she was just an NCAA athlete and it was in a niche sport, in an Olympic sport that's, not widely popular. It's popular in its lane. See what I did there? Swimming lane. But it's not like there's not worldwide fervor over swimming, right? So I don't know that she's not saying she hasn't gotten some things done, but she hasn't made the sweeping changes that I think she would like to make. But now when you have guys from probably the second most popular league, and in some places of the world the NBA is the most popular, but in America it's second most popular league and things like that, and then you have the WNBA that has growing popularity on the women's side of things. Josh, I think I'm going to have to agree with you. There's going to be such a light shown on this that I think ultimately this can have an incredibly positive outcome on the future of women's sports.
Yeah, and Riley Gaines was a 12-time All-American. You get All-American for whatever race that you race in. She was 12-time All-American, and she tied for 5th with Leah Thomas, who was a male. And Leah Thomas, when Leah Thomas raced in that, was down to the 554th ranked male swimmer in the 200-yard freestyle, and finished 5th in the women's, tied for 5th in the women's freestyle. So, I think that's all I have on that. As Forrest Gump said, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, so I would say yes.
554th?
I think this will ultimately be a great thing. And then back to your original question, how do I think this ultimately ends? I honestly don't know the path it's going to take to get there and all the landmines. I don't think when it's all said and done, those guys are even in the 2027 WNBA draft. But what happens to get from where we are today to that day, I can't even begin to give you a guess. I have no idea. It's going to be messy. I know that, and I am here for all of it. Sign me up.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome. Well, we are, let's see here. This is the 8th. We have, 3 more Saturdays before we get college football? Is week 0 August 29th?
It's 3 weeks from today.
Yeah, I think it's August 29th.
Ooh, so we only have 2 more Saturdays after today before we are back with college football, which means what, fellas? That means there are no more weeks of football until February. No more weeks without football until February.
Without football.
How awesome is that? I mean, unbelievable. And we will give Tom, not yet, I'm not ready for it yet. We'll give Tom a little bit of time since it's been so long. He can talk about his Buckeyes. But, one of our favorite whipping boys has always been the NCAA. And guess what? They might be number 2 on the list now, because I think maybe Kathy Engelbert in the WNBA has jumped them for the most inept organization that there is. But the NCAA tried to do something that I actually like on the surface. When they instituted the new rule, there is a clock that will start either when you graduate or when you turn 19. And you have 5 years to complete 5 years of eligibility. That's all you get. There's not going to be red shirts and waivers and all these things. 5 for 5, period. End of the sentence. Or so we thought. Now there has been court injunctions because there were guys who claimed they were only there for 4 years, so they want their 5th year. Well, why aren't we grandfathered in? So there was a court injunction, and it just so happened that Sam Alexis, who played for IU last year on the basketball side of things, was part of that. And so now, as of right now, Sam Alexis is going to return and be a nice piece for a newly rebuilt Indiana roster. But then, for your undefeated, defending national champion Indiana Hoosiers football team, they didn't just rebuild, they reloaded on the defensive side of things. And now add to that, you get 2 guys back. You get Kellen Wyatt, a defensive end, who was a key piece of the defense last year. But even more importantly, you get Stephen Daly back, who led the entire Big Ten in tackles for loss last year. I mean, Josh, I don't know about you, but should we go ahead and buy our national championship tickets again? Or
in seeing those 2 guys come back on the football side of things, they brought in 3 guys that were high-level starters last year in the transfer portal to replace Kellen Wyatt, Stephen Daly, Mikael Kamara. So they had those 3 guys. They had these 2 guys. They still have Mario Landino, who just absolutely wrecked the college football playoffs from the defensive tackle position. They still have Daniel Ndukwe, who was everywhere in that Oregon game that we went to. So they are now 7 deep across their defensive ends. And they're so deep at this point in time that Curt Cignetti has said, well, Stephen Daly got hurt in the celebration after beating Ohio State. Yes, it's been that long that we have torn ACLs because we were so excited to beat Ohio State. They said, well, he's going to come along slowly, and as long as he's ready to go by November, we'll be okay. Like, that's the level of just defensive linemen that IU has at this point in time, where they say, oh, the guy that led the Big Ten in tackles for loss last year, take your time healing, my friends. We really only need you for the last 8 weeks of the season.
And didn't they say Kellen White came in as a linebacker? Or was that one of the guys they got through the portal? Well, so there could be some wiggle room there.
He came in, transferred in from Maryland a couple years ago, and was a linebacker and then converted to defensive end. So the amount of riches that Indiana has on the defensive line, it can't be stated well enough. That defensive line is incredible. They just got even better, and we can get into it probably on the second half of this of what we think of the ruling, but no, it happened last year. Something very similar to that with IU with Lewis Moore, the guy who played starting safety for Indiana last year. He continued to have court cases and injunctions and everything throughout the whole season, and he got granted and he played in every game last year. So the NCAA, if you want something done as a player, just go to the court system, because the NCAA is 0 for 470,000 on court cases won. So if you want to play, go ahead and come back. And on the basketball side of things with Sam Alexis, I think outside of Lamar Wilkerson, he was the only guy that anybody Indiana wanted back. Yeah. And now he provides them Big Ten starting experience as a third big, your first backup big off the bench, which I thought was the only spot where Indiana was extremely vulnerable in the Big Ten, was their third big. And now you bring a guy back that started 20-plus games for you to come off the bench. I don't know what's bigger. I mean, obviously the two defensive line, but I think Indiana, from the football side, was covered at defensive line. But bringing Sam Alexis back is about as big as an acquisition or an addition that you can possibly have for Darren DeVries' second year.
Yeah, totally agree. Tom, I actually have 2 questions for you on the football side of things. The first one is, we all know preseason rankings mean literally absolutely nothing. Because what was IU preseason last year? 19. Weren't they 19th? They were just outside.
19th or 20th, yeah.
Something like that. So we know they mean nothing. But my question to you is, Tom, you have Ohio State and Oregon ranked 1 and 2. We all know the level of talent that they have on their rosters. Totally get it. But does it make sense that IU is ranked 6th when they were undefeated, national champions last year, and for all intents and purposes bring back a roster that's even more talented, which is scary to think, even more talented top to bottom than the one that they had last year? Why do you not start IU ranked preseason number 1?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you said that. I've been thinking about that, and the disrespect to IU from the coaches ranking them 6th, I don't like using always or never, but if Ohio State was coming off an undefeated national championship season, they would never not be in the top 5 at least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got people who still can't understand what Curt Cignetti has done at IU. This is not your grandma's IU football program. So, yeah, I think it's ludicrous that the coaches are disrespecting IU that much.
And you know, the funny thing about that is, as an IU fan, I'm glad they're not. I was literally asking the question because it doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not asking because I care, because I know who our coach is, and all I have to say to all the other coaches is thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All you have done, like, did they not learn anything? Like, did college football not learn anything the last 2 years about poking Kurt Signetti? Like, have you not learned? That's like the person that owns a pet cobra and just keeps sticking its hand in there and getting venom shot into him. Like, what are you doing? What you know what's going to happen. So I asked to get your opinion on it, but all I have to say to college football coaches is thank you.
I think it's a bigger slap in the face that they're just outside the top 5 as opposed to being number 1 or 2. Because not only did you have, or do you have, Ohio State, which I think Ohio State is a deserving number 1.
Yeah, I'm not mad about that.
I mean, they have tons of talent. Julian Sayin coming back. They have the best wide receiver core the second best in the Big Ten and the second best nationally.
I see what you mean. Well, they probably have the best singular wide receiver. But yeah, receiving core will go second.
That they do, and they've got talent up and down their roster. Like I can see that they're a deserving number 1. But the fact that you're putting in Oregon, who, look, Indiana kind of dog walked them at Oregon.
Yeah, that score
with Dante
was
Moore as
closer
their
than
starting
the game
quarterback.
Actually was.
Just kind of dog walked them. And then Jason, were we at that game in the semifinals in Atlanta? When IU put up their 55th and 56th point, we just did a golf clap because we were too tired of celebrating. They're number 2. Texas and Notre Dame are both ranked higher than Indiana. Do you remember, was Texas and Notre Dame in the college football playoffs last year, or were they not?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, yeah, they weren't. How about Georgia ranked above Indiana? Now, Georgia, they played in the SEC, right? So what did Indiana do to the second best SEC team last year in the Rose Bowl? The 38-3 or something. Did Georgia make it to the national championship or even the semifinals?
Nope.
They did not.
They did not. So that's where we're at. And then, so to slap Indiana and even Miami in the face and rank them 6th and 7th, I think Indiana should be 2. I think Miami should be 3, and then I would put a toss-up on number 4. So I would go Ohio State, Indiana, Miami, Oregon, and then whatever you want after that.
I'm putting Notre
guys,
Dame in front of Oregon.
The disrespect for IU is so bad. There were 11 coaches that voted IU number 1. So for them to end up at 6, you see how far down in the rankings most of the coaches did.
And again, I stand on my statement. Thank you. Tom, my other question to you is, because obviously, you know, we love to jab you a little bit when it comes to Ohio State, but that's because, you know, we actually know how good they are. Coming into the season, preseason number 1, have a ton of returning talent. But in saying that, as an avid Ohio State fan, what is one or a couple of your biggest fears for this team this year? What are your concerns?
Well, the big one is this is the second year in a row where you've had to replace 8 defensive starters. And I know Ohio State gets tons of 4- and 5-star talent, but to have to replace, last year to replace 8 off of a national championship winning defense, and then to, again, last year having to replace another 8, it's like, how deep do you get down in there, and are you going to have a bunch of freshmen come in that are ready to to play at a championship level. So that's my biggest concern.
The defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
So, is there anything on the offensive side that gives you pause for concern, or do you think that they're
Oh,
going
yeah.
to be
Yeah, I mean,
juggernaut?
if you look at the Big Ten championship game last year and then Ohio State's game in the playoff against Miami, the performance of the Ohio State offensive line was embarrassing. So, it gets back. I know last year I was concerned about the trenches, both sides of the ball. So that, offensively, they've got the same guys that are going to be starting. So they are going to have improved a whole bunch to deserve that number one ranking. So, yeah. So defense having to replace 8 starters for the second year in a row, and then the offensive line.
All right, Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. Ryan Higginbotham, Jason Simpson live here in studio. Josh Lee and the Godfather himself, Tom Fleming, joining us live via satellite. I wanted to start the second hour talking about Little Brother and the week that they had, but we'll get to that next. I did have one more question for Tom, although as we get closer to the game, we'll get deeper into it. You know, Tom, it came out this week that IU and Notre Dame have canceled their two games that were supposed to be 2030 and 2031, and it was canceled at the request of IU. And you know, in the world that we live in now, and it's going to get, when I say easy, I mean that relatively. It's going to get even easier to get into the college football playoff because it's going to expand to 24 teams. We know that's what's going to happen, right? But
Yep.
with playing in the Big Ten, I don't know why you would play a big out-of-conference. Now, as a fan, I wish they would, but why not play Indiana State and Bemidji Tech and Nowheresville University Southwest? Like, that's who you should play pre-conference. But your Buckeyes this year have on the slate a date with Texas. So even though we're still, are we about 5 weeks out from that? Is that week 2? Or do they
Yes.
open up with that?
Yes. Week two.
Week 2. So we're about 5 weeks away from that then. Looking ahead to that game, in the present landscape, obviously we as fans, we never want our team to lose a game. But ultimately at the end of the day, because as high profile as both of these teams are, does a loss in that game really do anything to either of these two teams if they eventually become who we think they are? Probably
not. Ohio State, their schedule last year was soft. Other than the fact they did play Texas in the first game of the season. But when it goes to 24, then go ahead and schedule that big major game each year against another Power 4 team. I know Ohio State has a series coming up, a home and away with Georgia and also with Alabama. And they're, a lot of the talking heads are saying that Alabama is going to back out of that 2-game series against Ohio State because of what you were saying, the impact it could have on them getting into the playoff. I like Ohio State's projection for the teams that they're going to play and playing this year what should be a very good Texas team. But I don't blame IU for not scheduling, a game against a major Power 4 team. I don't have a problem with it at all. And then also the fact that it wasn't IU. Was it IU that requested that they canceled that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I thought it was because Notre Dame canceled it so that they could schedule the game against USC.
No, that was just the nice consolation prize that they were able to get USC back on. I think right now that is scheduled for, I think it's a 4-year term. I think it replaces IU in 2030, and it'll be 30, 31, 32, 33.
Yeah.
I think they said 2 of those games, like, this will be a fun way to start the year. They kick off the season at least twice with Notre Dame USC.
Yeah.
So that'd be
that'll be good. Hey guys, one of the things we talked about before the break, I wanted to ask you guys, and this is a rhetorical question, but how much does Curt Cignetti use the disrespect that IU was shown in the coaches poll every week of the season this year to tell his players, look, nobody thinks you can do this.
Oh, it will be. I bet it is plastered all over that facility right now. I bet you can't walk anywhere and not get a reminder of it. And in every meeting, I'm sure it's spoken about, whether it's full team meeting or position groups or whatever it is. I am sure they are constantly reminded by that. And that's exactly why I didn't go on a rant about it. All I simply said was, thank you. Because we have the guy who will be able to manufacture something out of that his team will drink the Kool-Aid, and we'll see what happens, because we saw what happened last year too.
Yeah, I mean, and that will kind of get into what when we talk about the Purdue stuff and what their AD said, but that's going to fuel them. Curt Cignetti can take anything he's shown over the last couple of years and fuel his teams to kind of rise above that. So I think, again, I think it's easier now for him to say, guys, they didn't even think you were top 5. Not that you weren't number 1. Like, if they were number 2, you could make the argument, okay, that I can see it. I can see Ohio State being number 1 and us number 2. But when you and if you put them 4th, like, it's still in the top 5. To literally put them 6th, and Tom, they actually had 14 first place votes.
Oh, okay.
Which was second most, 14 first place votes, and still were 6th. So that means that some coaches had to put them, I'm guessing, in the 15 to 20 range, which, whatever, again, preseason polls don't matter. It's just for fans to talk about and for us to talk about on the show. But he's definitely going to use it for fuel. The only thing that I would say as far as future scheduling, because it is going to move to 24 teams before it's going to bypass 16 and go right to 24, which is perfectly fine. I just wish that Indiana would schedule Kentucky.
Yeah.
I miss that rivalry, home and home with Kentucky. Like, it's not a super dangerous game as long as Curt Cignetti continues on the path. And, now if the Big Ten continues to grow, then no, then you don't do that. But, I was just looking at Alabama's schedule, just because they like to always tout that, they have such a tough schedule. But I'll look at, this year, Alabama plays, let's see, how did I find them? Their non-conference games are East Carolina, okay, Florida State at home, which Florida State, again, to use Tom's is not your grandma's Florida State.
Bobby Bowden ain't walking out that tunnel, Josh.
He ain't walking out that. Neither is Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
And the mighty Chattanooga Mocs, November 21st. Nothing prepares you better for Auburn in the potential SEC championship game than the Chattanooga Mocs. That's what I always hear. So let's not just act like they've got a murderer's row of non-conference games. And that's the thing that kind of bothers me with all of this. I do think that Indiana should play a tougher non-conference schedule. But I guess if everybody scheduled them weeks 1 through 3, wouldn't they just be called preseason games? I mean, that's the way I would kind of look at it. So, I just wish, if Indiana's not going to schedule Notre Dame's and Alabama's and Georgia's and things like that, I just wish they would get somebody like a Kentucky back on the schedule. A built-in rivalry. Fans would get excited for it, of both Indiana and Kentucky. And I think that would be a good happy medium for Indiana.
So I'm just looking at Alabama's schedule now. And, I honestly think Kalen DeBoer's a good coach. I think he's a really good coach. I don't know if he's an Alabama coach, just because I don't know that he fits what they are. But you look at it, they should be 1, 2, 3, 4. They should be 5-0 going into the Georgia game. Georgia is at Alabama, but are we going to assume that's a Georgia win? I am. I'm comfortable saying Georgia
I am,
beats
yeah.
them. So there's one loss. The very next week, they have to go to Tennessee. Would you be surprised
Yeah,
if
I
they
could
lost
see that being
game?
a loss.
So there's two
No.
losses. The next week they host Texas A&M. I don't know much about A&M this year. I know they've been pretty good under Mike Elko.
Is Marcel Reed still the
I
quarterback?
can't remember. I don't know. But that could be a toss-up. Then they go to LSU. That's a loss. Now they're at 3 losses. Then they go to Vanderbilt, but, Vandy's...
No, that's your grandma's Vanderbilt right there.
Yeah. But it's at
Yeah.
Vandy, so... And then they host Chattanooga, and then they host Auburn in the Iron Bowl.
3 to 4 losses.
So I think there's at least 3 losses in there for poor old Alabama. I don't know what they're going to do there. So,
Yeah, Kalen DeBoer is going to be looking
ya.
to team back up with Tom Allen
seat could get real
someplace,
high.
someplace outside of Alabama. So
Yeah, and then you look at Georgia. They start 3-0, and then they host Oklahoma. That's between the hedges. So I think Oklahoma will be good this year, but I think they beat them there. Then they host Vanderbilt. Then they go to Bama. We just said they're beating them. Then they host Auburn. They host Florida. Then they go to Ole Miss. Are we buyers? Are we believers in Ole Miss? Or was that? Well, I mean, I know
I
they
am
have,
not.
what is it? Brandel Chambliss, is that it? Brand something Chambliss, their quarterback.
Trinidad
Tristan.
Chambliss.
Oh yeah,
Trinidad.
Brandel was golfer, right?
He's the golf announcer.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
the golf announcer.
Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. They do have him, but I don't know. anything
I
else
think they're
about
going to be good, but they're not semifinal college football
like
playoff.
in looking at Georgia's schedule, they've got a pretty soft, like in what it could be, they've got a fairly soft schedule. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah.
Who else?
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
Fighting Lane Givens.
you know, Signetti said it in Big Ten Media Day. You know, we have the best conference, and it's hard to argue that when the last 3 national champions are Indiana, Ohio State, and Michigan. Like, it's hard to argue against that. And, you know, with Indiana, they don't necessarily have to play a Notre Dame because what their schedule is this year and really going forward. I mean, Ohio State has a really tough schedule. You know, obviously Ball State, and that's a win at Texas. Who knows? I mean, if we think what Ohio State is, but that's still a tough game. And then Kent State, Illinois, at Iowa, which you never know. They'll probably win that 20-10, but it's still going to be a fight. Maryland at home, at Indiana, they're off. Then they're at USC, at home against Oregon, and then they finish the season with Northwestern at Nebraska and Michigan. That's not an easy schedule, but that's a Big Ten schedule. And in Indiana, I do think they have a pretty soft schedule this year. They shouldn't be challenged until they play Ohio State at home, and then the week after that they go to Michigan. Then Minnesota at home, a week off, then USC at home, and at Washington. So, you know, it's not a – and then then little brother, which is a good transition into then they have Purdue, which, fellas – what do we think that score is going to be this year? And let's be honest, like an honest.
This is going to be the worst football scoring game you will ever see.
I will say this. I do think they double their score from the last 2 years combined. I think they get 6 points this year.
What, 2 field goals?
Yes.
Or 3 safeties?
72-6 is my prediction.
And
72-6.
So for in case you've been living under a rock and you don't know what's going on with the WNBA, and the second biggest storyline came out.
Oh
from
no, this
Purdue's
is the
new
biggest
athletic
storyline,
director.
Josh.
So stupid.
So
Well, then the biggest story in college sports,
everyone
Purdue's
will hear
athletic
this.
director, who doesn't. I don't even. His name's not even worthy of being mentioned. I don't even know it.
Tommy
But he was
McClellan.
What the?
Tommy McClellan from Rice, the athletic director from Rice, comes in and takes over Purdue. And Jason, Why don't you just tell everybody what he said?
Hey,
Everyone
that's a
will hear
great
this.
side dish. Rice is great with any meal.
Rice
I had
Aroni's
rice
the
last
San
night.
Francisco treat. So here was Tommy McClellan's quote. He says, and I quote, "Everyone will hear this. From freshman to senior, we are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana. Purdue may not be the place for you." Now, there was a time in my life I would have been irate about. I would have been so mad about it. I just laughed. Like, what is this guy doing? And to his credit, he had the guts enough. He was on the McAfee show the next day. He was on McAfee yesterday to explain himself. Said, look, I knew as soon as I said it that this joke didn't land. And that's all that it was. It was a joke. You know, it's in-state rivals. That's what makes sports fun. And I agree with him on that. But, dude, like, that's like literally, as much as we love to bang on LeBron James, which we do on this show, we all know that, that would be like us literally saying LeBron is one of the top 5 worst players to ever play in the NBA. And being serious about it. Oh, we're just like, it was so bad for so many different reasons. Number one, like let's just start with this. When's the last time you heard of the powerhouse men's cross country team at Indiana University? Exactly. Your silence speaks volumes. But historically, do you know that in men's cross country, IU has as many national championships as Purdue has total in their entire history as a university? IU men's cross country has 3 national championships, and Purdue University has 3 national championships.
When's the last time they won a national championship? It was the women's.
1910.
No, but they're
That
like,
was
cool.
football. That was football, I guess.
The 2010, I think it was 2010 women's golf.
So they have a women's golf, they have a men's golf, and they have women's basketball, right?
Women's
Isn't that
basketball.
their 3?
In the
Yeah.
90s.
Like
Yep.
3 NCAA national championships. But then, like, so let's add to this. They have, obviously in basketball, they have a total of 5, but they have a coach, one coach, who has as many national titles as you in one sport he has, compared to your entire university. Thank you, Robert Montgomery Knight. But then you say it about the university who holds right now the most coveted national championship of all sports in college. Is that fair to say that the college football championship is probably the most coveted of all sports championships?
Yeah, 100. Yeah, absolutely.
And the school you just said that about is the defending national champions in that sport. Not to mention the mic drop moment. Bro, it's 25-3. 25-3 in overall national championships. And you want to say if you don't want to win championships, Purdue might not be the place for you. Go to Indiana. I mean, there's an idiot for it every day, I guess, but
the bell cow program for Purdue is obviously their men's basketball team, right? We can all agree there. They've been great the last 25, 30 years, outside of a couple years. They have, Indiana, one coach has just as many national championships as Purdue men's basketball has all-time Final Four appearances. Final Four appearances. Matt Painter and Gene Cady combined for one Final Four appearance since 1981. So dust off the banners, I don't care. Bob Knight has 2 titles since Matt Painter and Gene Cady have been the coach at Purdue. And by the way, Bob Knight's been fired for 26 years. 26 years. So, I get it. And I give the guy credit and say, yeah, I knew as soon as I said it that didn't land. And to stand up, and he could have went in the hole and hid, but he didn't. So good for him. Again, I like that rivalries. That's what you need for rivalries, right? But man, at some point in time, you gotta just maybe scribble in some notes for your introductory press conference. Don't poke the bear, right? Like, and look, Purdue fans, people have said, well, how's it any different than what Cignetti did when he said Purdue sucks and so does Michigan, Ohio State? And here's where it's different. Couple reasons. Cignetti is only in charge of one program of the 20-some that Indiana has. He's only in charge of that. Cignetti also is in charge of bringing in the talent, coaching up the talent, managing the talent, coaching the game, doing all of that. The athletic director has no hand in that. So basically, Cignetti controlled his own destiny when he said that. The fate was in his hands. As far as the athletic director, now he's got to go to Barry Odom, and Barry Odom has to say, fella, like, maybe I'm just meeting you for the first time. We've been outscored 122-3 the last 2 years against Indiana football. This isn't, you didn't help us here. You didn't help us. So, look, good for him to say it, but wow, that was certainly interesting when that started popping up. Now Stephen A. Smith is talking about it, and now Dan Patrick is talking about it, and Rich Eisen, and every sports who is talking about it, and maybe that's a good thing. But you know, we've gotten into the WNBA and Purdue athletic director, and I do subscribe to the only bad press is no press at all, except for the WNBA and Purdue's athletic director. I have to say that not all bad press is good press. Sometimes just kind of float in the background and let your coaches do the talking on the field.
Tom, what was your take on new Purdue athletic director deciding that diarrhea of the mouth was a good choice in your introductory press conference?
You know, if you looked in the dictionary and looked up tone deaf, it would have a thumbnail to click on there that would show that press conference to explain what tone deaf means.
And
yeah,
the sad
is
part
there any
is,
good?
I read an article about him. After all this, I'm like, okay, this guy can't be this big of a doofus. Like, if I'm a Purdue fan, honestly, take away that press conference and being an absolute idiot. Like, let's say we aren't blessed with our athletic director, okay? Scott Dolson, like, right now, everything he touches turns to gold. It's been phenomenal. But let's say Scott Dolson is out of the picture and we have to hire a new athletic director, and it happens to be McClellan. Like, if the things that he is about are coming to IU, I'd be fairly excited about it, because, you know, one of the things that is quite obvious, and Purdue fans will tell you this, and it's obvious to the outside world, Purdue does not match the level of spending as other Big Ten programs. But you also have to have money to spend money. And so he's talking about all these different ideas he has to generate revenue to try to get better players to come, because he knows that the lifeblood of a Power 4 school, and I mean college athletics in general, is NIL and getting kids to want to come to your school because of that. And so, you know, when you do a little bit of a deeper dive on him, he's got some really good ideas. So as a Purdue fan, I would be excited about it. Outside of take away him like, you can't even say open mouth insert foot. Like, this is open mouth and insert a bowling ball or something. My goodness gracious. Like, bro, to Tom's point, don't be so tone deaf. But outside of that, like, if I'm a Purdue graduate or a Purdue fan, I have to be excited about some of the things this guy is about. Because I don't want to pick on him the whole time and make little brother feel worse about himself than he already does.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't dove into him. I haven't seen that. I mean, the thing is, like, probably 15 years ago, Purdue started dumping a bunch of money into their facilities. and redoing a lot of the football stadium and the weight room and all that. And that's like, you take that $250 million investment or whatever it was, and you could just say, okay, well, if we could raise that, this day and age, like, let's say that didn't happen 15 years ago, we can take $50 million and upgrade the facilities and spend $200 million over, 10 years on NIL, which, again, that's revisionist history. It's not about facilities now. Now, you can't have nothing, but it's not about facilities. And it used to be an arms race for that, and that's where Indiana always lacked in football and in basketball. But it has nothing to do with that now. It's all about NIL, but you have to have the right guys in place. I fully believe, and it's easy to say this, that Purdue does a fantastic job of recruiting and developing to what Matt Painter wants to do. But if you put Matt Painter on a lie detector test, you would say, would you rather have your NIL budget and your roster construction, or would you rather have the NIL budget of Indiana or Kentucky or Arkansas? And 100% of the time, Matt Painter would say, I want the higher NIL budget. Yeah. He's recruiting and developing because he's the best at that in the country. He's the best at finding talent that fits what he wants and developing them to play how they want. He's the best in the country. But if you could give him the NIL, he would take the NIL gladly. So,
and to your point, why is he that way, Josh? Like, why is he the best at that? Because he's had to be.
Right.
He hasn't had a choice.
Yeah, and you go and look back after Hummel and Juwan Johnson and E'Twaun Moore left, he took those chances on super exciting athletes and really good basketball players, but didn't fit the mold that he wanted. And what did he do? He had 2 back-to-back terrible seasons, like third Tom Crean season, 12 and 20, 13 and 19. And then he told himself, when they were about ready to run him out of the building, and he was flirting with going to Missouri, okay, that's not what I'm doing anymore. I'm finding guys that fit how I want to play, that fit into my culture, and that's what's going to happen. And that's why he's had such a successful run over the last 15 years, because he learned those hard lessons. If he had those 2 years now in NIL, in the NIL era, he would be fired. And we've said that about Darren DeVries. If he doesn't have a good year this year with the amount of money that they're spending, and now with Sam Alexis coming back into the fold, at least for now, it should be Sweet 16 or it's a bad year. And if it's not, year 3, you go and you say, why are we giving you $20 million if you take the $20 million and you can't even get to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament? And then the pressure ramps up. So, you got to be able to raise funds if you're Purdue, and hopefully for Purdue fans' perspective, Tommy McClellan can do that and stop poking at Curt Cignetti.
Yeah, if IU had not just won the national championship in football, everybody would have said, hey, that was great that he said that.
Right.
Yeah. Go to Indiana if you don't want to win a championship. Timing just wasn't right.
And to that point, if they hadn't just won the national championship, and you make some comment about, they might have more, but go knock the dust off of them or whatever. Okay, that's poking fun at your rival. But, dude, woo, Tom, you're exactly right. The timing on that, I don't know that it could have been much worse.
Just in my office up here, and it's not a very big office. I mean, it's probably 15 feet by like 5 feet. It's small. But in what I have, I'm looking at a picture with the 3 tickets from the college football playoffs with 2 gold coins that say 2026 CFP National Championship. I'm looking at a koozie that says undefeated champs. I'm looking at a picture or a book that says perfect with Fernando Mendoza holding a national champion. And I'm looking at a book about Bob Knight. I'm looking at a couple of Bob Knight bobbleheads. Like, that's all happened since Purdue won any sort of meaningful title.
I hate to change the subject, but somebody sent it in our group chat last night, and I just can't stop laughing at this because the statistic just popped up. and Tom, you can weigh in on this. 7.6%. Does anybody know what 7.6% is? Angel Reese's shooting percentage last night. 1 for 13 on layups. 7.6% from 2 feet. And, I mean, Angel Reese is not small, right? Doesn't she play like a stretch
No, she's
four?
like 6'3", 6'4".
She was blocked 6 times. 6 times. 1 for 13 on layups, 7.6%. But yet, she's the WNBA representative on, not the one that's coming out, but this past year's 2K. Make that make sense. And she's considered one of the faces of the league. Get out of here, folks.
So, here's the thing. I was watching some of the lowlights of that. Highlights for me, lowlights for her. And every single layup she took was below the backboard. Below the backboard, okay? Jason, if Logan tries to go up for a layup and he's below the bottom of the backboard this year, what's going to happen? You're going to taste it by somebody from Jennings County in the first row that you sit in.
Yep.
That's high school boys basketball. If you're not playing above the bottom of the backboard, which I didn't in high school, the game has changed in 20 years. I didn't. That's why I only shot threes, I guess. But that's getting put into – that's exactly what's happening with Angel Reese. Every shot is from her shoulder, and it's below the bottom of the backboard because she can't physically get to the bottom of the backboard. And that's okay, but it can't be the face of the league. And then they announced the women's preliminary Olympic roster, I think, right? Is that what they just announced, Tom?
What was that?
The women's Olympic preliminary roster.
Oh, World Cup, yeah,
World Cup. So it's basically a preview in 2 years of what the Olympic women's team is going to be. How does Angel Reese deserve a spot on that? Like everybody else on there, you could say, oh yeah. But Sabrina Ionescu gets left off, and Angel Reese is on it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I was going to ask the question. I was thinking about it this morning. I'll ask you guys all the question. Has there ever been an athlete that the media has forced us to look at as a good player when they're clearly not a good player? Can anybody else name an athlete that title carries for?
Like that's been as massive as Angel Reese, or just in general?
Well, I mean, I would say in general. Like I think we get a little bit of the media wants us to think that Ronnie James is good, but I'm trying to think of like an athlete that has a big platform that gets covered, that gets marquee games on national TV, and they're just not good. But everybody from the media perspective tells us is good, but everybody can see is not. Is there another athlete that we can think of?
Boy.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, because you added the caveat of like getting national games and things like that. Because for whatever reason, the first, and this is a blast from the past. The first one I could think of, first name that popped in my mind was Harold Miner. You remember Harold Miner? Remember that name?
I do.
Went to USC, then played for the Miami Heat. And some of it was because of his bald head, and then he had a couple of nice dunks, and so he earned the nickname Baby Jordan. And it wasn't fair to him. So then he was kind of anointed as the next Michael Jordan, and I mean, I think he might have averaged like 12 points a game or something. I don't know why his name popped into my head when you said that, but they weren't like giving him, of course, TV was a lot different back then because he was back in the 90s, but man, that's a good question.
So I'm just looking at like, because I think NBA you could maybe find somebody, but I think you almost have to look at like NFL quarterbacks because that's the highest level that you can get. That's the most important position in all of sports. Like that's the only thing that I can try to think of somebody that the media is trying to tell you is really good but isn't. And as I'm going through this list, you're sitting there like, okay, well, he won a Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl. And I was going to say like Eli Manning, Okay, but Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls.
Exactly.
So you can't really say that.
Marcus Russell.
Well, he was never. I mean, he was never a guy that. I don't know.
Coming into the league, you know, he was the name.
How about this one? How about, like, I know he won 3 Super Bowls, but how about Troy Aikman? Great, his career number, the 81.6
I don't think that was because
QB
it was
rating.
because he was the quarterback of Dallas. It was the
Well,
Cowboys.
no,
The
but
most
that's-
popular team in the 90s.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's my question in that. Like, the media and who you play for, they try to boost you up to make you seem better than you are. And I mean, again, Troy Aikman won 3 Super Bowls, but he also had one of the best running backs of all time, what people consider the best offensive line of all time. He had Michael Irvin. I mean, Deion Sanders on the other side of the ball. Like, is he? I mean, I think he's overrated. Terry Bradshaw would be another one. But again, 4 Super Bowls. It's just.
But again, you keep
I don't
saying
know.
people that are popular or are out there, but both of them that you mentioned are probably the 2 most popular franchises that they played for. So to me, it's not an apples to apples comparison between them and Angel Reese from the standpoint of Angel Reese is promoted because of Angel Reese, not because she played for Chicago
Right.
and now for Atlanta. Whereas Troy Aikman, I mean, I know you're just trying to give examples. I know that you know that Troy Aikman was a good quarterback. But he may have been propelled even more, not because he's Troy Aikman, but because he played for the Cowboys. If he had the exact same career and played for the Chargers, it wouldn't be I don't think he would have been promoted any less necessarily for his individual skill, but it definitely wouldn't have been more. The more came from the fact that he played for the Cowboys, if that makes sense.
What about this one? What about, like, Ricky Fowler? Never won a major. He's been close in majors. It's an individual sport. He's still one of the most popular guys on tour just because of how he dresses. And, you know, he's a great guy and everybody loves him. Like, I root for Ricky Fowler, but he's not really that good. Again, that's not a great example, but it's hard to find those examples because if the media is shoving them in your face, you typically have to be pretty good. And Angel Reese is the opposite of pretty good. She is very bad at what she does.
And this is not us banging on Angel Reese. And I'm asking this as a serious question. No, I'm saying this question is not to poke fun. It's a literal serious question. Name for me her best skill, if she has one, her best skill outside of rebounding her own missed shots. And don't forget, she's not missing threes and then chasing down her rebounds. She misses layups and they fall back in her hands. Can you name another thing that she does well?
Talking to the camera.
I can't. No. No.
Tom,
She
you
doesn't
watch more
handle
than
it well.
any of
She
us.
has
Is there anything else she does well?
I liked Ryan's response there. Yeah, she's a good talker,
I mean,
but that's it.
she can't dribble the ball.
What about here's one. Danica Patrick.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's a good one.
that could definitely be. Yes.
That's a very good
Although
one.
at least she did win a race, didn't she? She won a.
She won an IndyCar race. Yeah.
That's what I thought. So at least she does have a victory in her time.
Well, yeah, but Angel Reese also has a national championship, doesn't she?
This is
She
true.
does. Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah. I think that's the best one that you can say.
I liked
that's
your
the best
Ricky
one
Fowler,
that I
too.
found.
Ricky Fowler
Yeah.
was a valid one.
And I say with Danica, and again, no knock on her. Look, she's the only female driver to ever win an IndyCar race. So that's awesome. That's fantastic. But you know, like she, at least from the Indy 500 perspective, she always got thrown the best car for her team, and she had the most resources for her team. And even when she transitioned over to NASCAR, same thing. Like she had a ton of resources thrown behind her and all this, and then she would make that one move in a race where you would scratch your head and be like, okay, well, that's why she doesn't win. So maybe, again, no knock on her, but she was good looking. Like, she was the first female to do this and this and this. So I think those are the only.
Hold
Danica
on, I
Patrick
might have
and
come
Ricky
up
Fowler.
with one. Present day.
Okay.
And it's more so because of team success, probably. Because I do think he's pretty good. He does not lack
Who'd you
skill.
say,
Like
Jason?
no, I haven't yet.
Okay.
I do think he's pretty good. He just hasn't had the team success, really. And he definitely doesn't lack skill like Angel Reese. But present day, a guy that gets, man, does he get boosted up, I think. What about Justin Herbert?
Yeah.
Because
That's
what
a
has he
good
done?
one.
Yeah.
What has he done to
Nothing.
earn the accolades that he gets? He's been pretty good. I'm not saying that. Like, I would not be the least bit upset if all of a sudden it comes out today, Justin Herbert traded to the Indianapolis Colts. I would be really excited about that.
I'd take that, but
But, and so again, that's why I say it's not to the level of like lack of skill like Angel Reese. That it's not like that. I don't know that we could find somebody that is as not good as she is that gets as promoted, because the people that we've come up with are still pretty darn good at what they do. I wouldn't even come close to saying she's pretty good at what she does other than knee bounds.
Yeah, and even if you look at guys like Johnny Manziel or Tim Tebow, like, no, they weren't good pros, but they were phenomenal college players. So just because you're not a good pro,
so was she, though. She was really
so
good
was
at
she.
LSU.
So was she. Yeah, she was. So I mean, maybe a Tim Tebow or a Johnny Manziel. But here's the thing: when it comes to Ricky Fowler and Danica Patrick, they're people that you want to root for, that you want, that you're okay, that you want them to be good. Angel Reese is impossible to root for. Impossible to root for.
Well, depends what demographic you belong to, Josh.
Okay.
I'm
People that
just
watch
saying.
the WNBA.
I'm not wrong.
People that watch the. Okay. All right. I guess you're right, but okay. She's very hard for the average fan to root for.
Thank
How
you.
about
Yes, that's very good. Yes, I
Okay.
can get down with that.
So, but yeah, so that's a good one, because it's just if you can actually watch with a little bit of objectivity and say, yeah, she's just not a good player. Like, we don't need to hear that she's a great player. You can see it that she's not, and she's commercials, and she's on the women's U.S. team, and she's an all-star, and she's this and that, and like, they're not even guarding her in the WNBA. They don't even guard her. So
I mean, what
that's
does that
crazy.
say about you when you're playing in the top league of your sport, and they don't even guard you? Like, they dare you to shoot it. That's okay. Okay.
Yeah. And you still shoot it. You still shoot it. There's a reason you're open, Angel.
I mean, think about this. This goes all the way down to the high school level. We will have scouting reports for every single team that we play. Doesn't matter how good or bad you are. We're going to scout you the same way, and we're going to prepare for you. There will be people on other teams that the girl on our team who is responsible for guarding her, we will say, you don't leave the lane. I don't care where she gets the basketball. Don't leave the paint.
Mhm.
And then your biggest hope, because my favorite thing, and listen, I love our fans. Thank you so much for your support. You're the best that there are. But I love to hear them lose their minds. Like, it gives me this little grin. I just like, okay, here we go. But when that kid who is wide open catches the ball, they're like, oh my God, somebody guard her. And I'm like, absolutely don't
No.
guard her.
No.
And the best thing that can happen is, and this sounds crazy because you're giving up 3 points, the absolute best thing that can happen is if that kid catches it and makes their first shot. Because you know what that means they're going to do?
Shoot another one.
Keep shooting it. And guess what? Stats don't lie. I'm not saying that you can't have a day every once in a while, because that actually did happen to us in the holiday tournament this year. We had a kid we weren't guarding. Kid hit 3 threes. We guard her, and we end up winning by 20. But I mean, a vast majority of the time, and I'm not a huge analytics guy or statistics guy, but they don't lie. And so the best thing that can happen is when Angel Reese or that kid you're not guarding hits their first shot, because they're going to keep shooting, and you're going to rebound it, and you're going to run your fast break and get easy points. So,
you know, and give it 6 years, Claire Larison's going to cross over Angel Reese and hit a three, and we're all going to lose our minds.
I love how
You know, it's interesting. You know, you bring that name up. You know, Claire is, in my opinion, one of the best offensive rebounders that I have seen over all the years that I broadcast high school basketball. The difference between her and Angel is when Claire puts the ball back up, it goes in the net. She actually scores.
Oh, is that important in basketball, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to get your thoughts on this. So obviously we kind of talked about it, but the 5 years to play five, and now with these guys coming back into college and winning that injunction through the court system, Danny Hurley came out strongly against that happening, which is fair, but is it a little bit of sour grapes when it comes to that? And him saying like it's just not right. You know, it's kind of like a free agency. You're adding guys in August. There's 80 players or whatever. And then Seth Greenberg, who I really like. I think Seth Greenberg is really good on ESPN. Well, if he's still, I don't even know if he's still on ESPN, but he came out and said in a tweet, kind of going back off of what Danny Hurley said, he said, Dan is right on the money. August rentals, players returning for one thing only, which is money. Coaches just renting players and administrators not leading. This has nothing to do with college experience or education. It's totally transactional. And my only thing to that is, Seth, it hasn't been about education for about 20 years.
easy.
And until the NCAA does something about NIL and and eligibility requirements and things along those lines, it's never going to be in basketball and football. It's never going to be about educational opportunities.
My opinion.
So
Only my opinion, but I think you guys will probably agree at least in some way with this. Here's how they fix it. And the NCAA doesn't want this because then it makes them look like employees. But turn that scholarship into a contract of sorts. Meaning, okay, you want to come to my school and I'm going to pay you $1.2 million in NIL money. You have to stay for at least 2 years or 3 years, whatever contract you sign. You get one time to transfer. That's it. Unless your coach leaves. Then I think you should be, if coaches are free to leave whenever they want, then I think kids should be able to as well from that standpoint. If the coach leaves, you can leave, right? Because the coach always has the buyout out. And I guess you could put that in for the kids too. Like if you have $1.2 million laying around, you want to buy out your contract, do it. Cool. Love it. But to me, that is the way that it has to happen. You've got to put these parameters in place where you say you're signing a 2-year deal to come here, a 3-year deal, and it's like a contract in the NBA, right? Like LeBron can't suddenly say when he signs a new 5-year deal, in the second year he can't say, nope, sorry, I'm just going to go play for this other team without a trade happening or something like that. Like two organizations have to work something out between them. It has to come to that in college sports, or it's going to continue to be the Wild West that we've seen.
Yeah, none of these kids are attending class. Maybe online, but they're not attending class anymore. So it's just when you almost have to get the old guard out of there to look at it like it's an educational system anymore, because that's the furthest from the truth. It's a true minor leagues for the professional sports, and because of what the NCAA has done, which we said 7 years ago is a slippery slope, they've let it the snowball roll all the way down the hill and the Avalanche is just plowing people over. And they didn't do anything to correct it, and that's why we are where we're at. And I don't think there's any fan anymore that legitimately thinks, oh, man, this guy's going there to get an education from Indiana. Nobody thinks that. That's just not how it is anymore.
No.
So, I mean, I love that Seth is speaking truth, but I think his truth, he thinks it should be about education because that's when he was coaching, and it's just not. And guys need to understand that. The media needs to understand that and just call it what it is. It's a minor leagues for the professional sports.
And maybe part of that contract is if we want it to get back to being at least partly about education, it would be very easy for a vast majority of these kids nowadays, because of the way high schools are structured, at least the ones that I know of in Indiana, and I'm sure there's many like this across the country, with dual credit classes, it's fairly common for kids to go into college as sophomores. They have enough college credits already. So why don't you say, if you can earn your degree in 3 years, which you should be able to because they stay and take summer school and things like that, then you still have 2 years of eligibility left. You're free to go. You're now a free agent, or however you want to look at it. Now is when your transfer window opens. If you've earned, whenever you earn that degree, now you're free to go, because then that way the NCAA can feel good about themselves because, hey, we've gotten back to this being about academics. But then the players still control some of their own destiny and things. And then you always have the little caveat there. If the coach leaves, you're free to leave. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, I think you get one transfer, and then to your point, if you graduate, then you're free to go. I think that would be a good way to go about it. Tom, what do you think?
It is all such a mess. At the NCAA and their rules, just, I mean, when you have football and the transfer window is during the college football playoff, ridiculous.
Yeah.
The thing about the transfer, and I agree with you guys that, you should be able to transfer once, and after that, if the coach leaves, you can go, but other than that, you're there. The NCAA just keeps backing themselves into a corner that they're never going to get out of. And Dan Hurley complains about these rules that have come in because of the impact it's going to have on his team. He doesn't care about what it's going to do for college basketball. He's just worried about how it's going to affect UConn.
And why would Dan Hurley be worried about what it's going to do for his team? He's been probably the best college basketball coach over the last, 5 years? 5 or 6 years?
Yeah.
He's been at the top of the profession, and he is at a school where he doesn't have to worry about big-time football. He is the main attraction along with the other basketball team that plays there. So I would assume that a vast majority of the NIL money that goes to Connecticut, which, don't forget, is in the Big East, which, again, has mainly all schools. There might be a school or two that plays big boy football, but most of those schools don't even have big boy football. So you're at a basketball-rich school. You can just pay these kids to come to you, and especially because of your success, not only layer on top of that the money, but put success with it and put eyeballs on you. You're going to be seen. Like, what is he complaining about? Like, don't hate the player, hate the game, man.
Do you think if Alex Caravan, who was there for 5 years, and he was, he redshirted his first year, then played 4, do you think if Alex Caravan wanted to come back, Danny Hurley would welcome him with open arms?
Oh, my. No, yep. Oh, sorry. Nope, he's going to close the door.
100.
Sorry, Alex.
If Braden Smith called Danny Hurley and said, hey, I don't have a contract with the Pacers yet, I want to come back, to college, but I want to play for UConn because I want to win a title, and I can't do that at Purdue. Don't you think Danny Hurley would take Braden Smith?
No, Josh, it's bad for college
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah, he's not going to get his education from UConn. Okay, Danny Hurley.
Good Lord.
Just count your titles, bro, and shut up.
Last thing, and it's just a yes or no question. We can't get into a discussion on it. I wanted to ask this earlier. Yes or no, because this thought came out, trade deadline just happened. Tarek Skubal goes to the Dodgers. And there's this narrative put out there. The Dodgers are ruining baseball. Agree or disagree? Ryan.
No.
Ryan says no. Josh?
No.
No. Tom?
Nope.
No. And I can't. I thought somebody would say yes. I think we're all in agreement. And we can get into that next week. Tom, it was great to have you back. Don't be a stranger. We expect you to call in.
Thanks, guys.
No sleeping in. You have your chair. You can nap during the day. So you go ahead and you need to get in
There
on
we go.
Saturdays.
Yeah.
You can join us live via satellite each and every week. Beyond the Game
All
has
right,
been brought to
guys.
you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Byride Auto. For Josh Lee and Tom Fleming and Ryan Higginbotham, this is Jason Simpson. We'll see you all next week.